This is going to be interesting. As you all may know, I am a big fan of Vintage Story. I loved its atmosphere, its gameplay, and all the little details it offered. However, it was also brought to my attention that it was inspired by a Minecraft mod named TerraFirmaCraft. TerraFirmaCraft is a standalone mod that completely and utterly transforms Minecraft into an entirely different game. I mean, it changes everything from how you craft, how you make metal tools. It's hardly Minecraft for the level of changes it made. Which, given its objective to make things feel more believable, yeah, you'd kind of have to remake the whole game, wouldn't you? So I figured, what the hell, and I threw it in the last mod and modpack vote. And I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. Technically, TerraFirmaCraft won by following the rules. GregTech got a video first by having a clearly higher like ratio on any comment mentioning it, but the rules stipulated that comments are what count as votes. So while I did do GregTech first because clearly a lot of people wanted it, it's worth noting the real winner was TerraFirmaCraft. Hooray! Rigged elections! But hey, on the bright side, you're also getting this one on top of GregTech, so I didn't just abandon it. So, enough talk. What's the deal with TerraFirmaCraft? Is it good? Did I like it more than Vintage Story? Well, stay tuned and find out. As always, I'll break the review down into segments, but this time there will be 4. The good, the bad, my overall thoughts, and a spicy secret 4th segment. Ooh! Before we begin, I do want to say thank you guys so much for helping this channel reach 10K. I know in the last video I uploaded, it seemed like I was just glossing over it, but I want to assure you that I definitely haven't. I'm actually trying to plan something cool to do for a 10K special, and I was thinking maybe a live stream? I don't know. If you guys have a better idea, do let me know. Seriously, I don't think there's words to express how grateful I am, but thank you guys so much. I hope I can keep entertaining you all in the future the way I do now. With the sappiness out of the way, if you like what you see today, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. Or don't. I mean, you do you. I'm not your mom. Let's dive in with the good. Can we just start with how utterly impressive this is conceptually? Taking a game that has its framework laid out for you and altering it into essentially a whole new experience is just insane work. Like, just objectively, let's just observe here. We got nutrition, hunger, thirst, new weather types, napping stone tools, river currents? Holy shit, there's just so much that this mod does. I personally love just how cohesive it all is too. It's not just loose concepts strung together under one mod. Every mechanic plays with each other in a meaningful way that keeps you engaged. Torches are lit in a campfire and have limited burn time. Longer than a campfire somehow. But it's nice to see. You have to cook clay molds and vessels in a pit kiln before you can process metal, which you can light with the aforementioned torches by dropping it on the kiln. Everything has its own process, which is cool. Food has an expiration date, so you can't just hoard a bunch of food like a crack fiend, at least not in the early game. In order to find ore in the early game, you have to search the surface for ore chunks to determine where the veins are, and it's a pretty innovative way to handle mining. I mean, with all these things alone, it's pretty clear to see how it inspired someone to make Vintage Story. Keep in mind this mod did this first, and what's even crazier is that it's free. This whole mod, everything it does, the new game worth of content and experiences that it adds, is entirely free. And it's been in development for damn near a decade. Do the devs get paid? Are people supporting them? I'm floored by just how amazingly well constructed this is for a free product. Anyways, this is where the good actually does come to a close, which actually leads us straight into the bad, so let's talk about that. There was one major feeling I had while playing this mod for the duration of this review, a feeling that is summed up in one word: clunky. Now, to be entirely fair, most of it is probably due to the limitations of what you can do in a mod for Minecraft, and I imagine it's pretty hard to literally rewrite an entire game into a mod. That being said, while some of the clunkiness definitely came from just how Minecraft handles things, there were other things that felt like intentional decisions. For starters, I hate tall grass with every fiber of my fucking being. I have no idea why this was decided to be a feature, but tall grass slows you down when you walk through it. In a game with a lot of tall grass. So you are just constantly like dunk, dunk against like every blade of tall grass. Just, You'll see in footage of me just shredding grass in front of me because I didn't want to put up with it anymore. It's that bad. What's worse about it is that it feels so counterintuitive to the whole explore the world part of the game because it just makes exploring the world miserable. It just makes it, alright, you know what, fine, we're moving on, it's fine. Then we got how heat works. When you heat up your vessel in a pit kiln, it has a heat meter. If your vessel cools down, any molten material inside solidifies and then you have to melt it again. However, the speed of which it cools down on the ground is vastly different than it is in your inventory. And I mean wildly, vastly different. How different? Different enough that taking my eyes off the pit kiln for under a minute resulted me in returning to a fully cooled off vessel with solidified copper. It's light speed cooldown time, which means if you plan on putting the metal into a mold, you will have to stare at it the entire time so you don't have to restart the process. Then there's clay. Not that like it's rare, but it's hard to find unless you know that certain plants indicate clay. This is because of the addition of grass textures connecting to each other, which while it's visually interesting, does make finding clay a little harder to do when you can't see the clay texture from the sides. Then for some reason, mud is a specific block, instead of a process involving dirt, thus making mud bricks harder to come by. You have to find mud. You can't create mud, you have to find it. And I get it's probably so it's like, oh, you have to explore the world. Totally understand. Totally get it. But if the objective of the mod is to make Minecraft believable, you're telling me it's believable that I can make metal tools in a bucket full of water, but somehow putting dirt in water to create mud is out of the fucking question? Then we have campfires, which can only have 4 logs in it at a time, and it burns out incredibly fast, so keeping a light source going is a complete pain in the ass. And then there's this part, which is honestly my least favorite part in the entire mod, period. Every version of dirt and cobblestone are now also affected by physics, which feels weird because cobblestone makes such an interesting decorative block, and now it's rendered unusable for anything but a floor. Okay, listen, this may sound like nothing but me having straight issues with the mod, but I want to be clear, I still like the mod, but all these details form that clunkiness that I felt the entire time I was playing. It's like a bunch of great concepts that also get partially held back by weird decisions. Not entirely unenjoyable, and I could likely get used to it, but it just kind of feels crusty. Now, I'm not quite done. Another issue I had was with its difficulty, and that its only form of early game difficulty is just getting basic stuff together, because it kind of just removed all hostile mobs from the surface and put them into caves exclusively. And while I get this mod as going for a more realistic approach, walking around at night felt far too safe. Like, you might just find me in footage running around with nothing really attacking me. Didn't need no torch. I don't need to see. Who cares about what's in front of me? There's literally nothing here. Like, quite literally nothing that can hurt me except maybe wolves or bears, and even then they're usually sleeping at this time. This next statement I'm about to make is completely off script, so if I sound a little bit more stuttery, that would be why. It's not really on script at all. But I had an epiphany while saying that. By removing all surface mobs and removing any, like, threat from the surface, there's really no reason to grab the better gear, because why would you? You don't need it. You can just run around. At worst, what, you get attacked by a bear? Okay, just respawn in your house. Anyways, short of the long is that by removing the surface threats and kind of just delegating it to select animals that aren't always active, you've actually trivialized most of the challenge and any of the reason for an upgrade in the first place. Also, another thing is that if I died, doing so immediately replenished all my hunger and thirst, thus defeating the point of even hunting for food, when the most optimal solution would be to swan dive off my house, which is funny because food was made a little more rare and inconsistent in this mod. It would have made it actually challenging. And to my knowledge, enchantments aren't even in the mod itself, so, I mean, there's really no penalty for death, other than just dropping your stuff somewhere. Essentially, the mod ironically removes the difficulty, mistaking difficulty with time-consuming, and let it just be on record that there's nothing inherently difficult about waiting. Now, there were some people that did tell me to install add-ons for TFC, but if I did that, then I don't think I'd be in a position to provide a proper review, especially if I hadn't tried TerraFirmaCraft before. To me, that'd be like if you're going into a restaurant you've never been to before as a critic, ordering their famous dish, then just bringing a sauce from home and demolishing it in a sauce they don't even offer. Basically, I didn't get add-ons because how can you critique something that is effectively different from the original? Anyways, you might be surprised to hear this given the video's runtime, but it's overall thoughts time. All things considered, I'd still recommend TerraFirmaCraft to people if you're looking for an interesting, more realistic spin on the Minecraft survival formula. Especially if you don't have the money for Vintage Story, it's a pretty good entry point for people who are interested in the concept. Although the way things were handled were not something I judge with that much, I can certainly see its appeal and I can see why people wanted me to look at it. It's an impressive mod that accomplishes turning Minecraft into a new game. That being said, you're probably beginning to realize that this video still has a good chunk of time left. Well, let's look into section 4. Which is better, TerraFirmaCraft or Vintage Story? Vintage Story, and it's not even close. Don't get me wrong, TerraFirmaCraft is a great mod. However, the problem quickly rose up when I realized why I wasn't enjoying the mod as much as others have. Vintage Story ruined my ability to enjoy this mod. You know whenever you experience something so good that everything else begins to pale in comparison? That's pretty much what happened to me. While TFC definitely pioneered the concepts, Vintage Story refined it and solved a lot of the clunkiness I literally listed. Grass doesn't impact your movement. While things cooling down certainly takes longer, it also means that if you walk away to do something else while you wait, the punishment isn't as severe. If you die, you only get a portion of your hunger back, so if you starve to death, you're going to starve to death again faster. Now, food is more common in Vintage Story because of that, but you still get more nourishment for cooking proper meals, so you can't just munch on berries for the rest of your life. It's inefficient. There are threats at night, not only wandering wild animals that are properly nocturnal, but also weird interdimensional creatures. Campfires last longer than 5 minutes. Really, there's just a lot that Vintage Story does that makes it better in nearly every way, and if you don't believe me, just go ahead and check out the Vintage Story reviews. I made 2 of them because it was was that good. Now, I completely understand that it isn't exactly fair to compare the two. One is a free mod that's been in development for years dealing with Mojang's constant changes. The other is built as its own game with every system implemented immediately in a form that's under complete developer control. The only reason I'm really doing this comparison is because the people who requested TFC also wanted to hear what I thought regarding the differences between the predecessor and the new kid on the block. That all being said, Vintage Story wins not just because of how polished it is by comparison, but by just how many features are added on top of it. Vintage Story is so good that I'd buy it twice if I could. Though don't let me dissuade you from trying out TerraFirmaCraft. I've always been under the opinion that if something is free, there's really no reason not to try it if you're interested. Despite the issues I had with TFC, they were more of a byproduct of the fact that I played Vintage Story more than it was genuine mod problems. So seriously, give TFC a try. For all you know, you might actually like it more than I did. As for me, I'll stick to Vintage Story. Thank you guys so much for watching, and again, thank you for 10,000 subs. I couldn't have gotten this far without you, and it's so cool to see my content resonate with just so many of you. Now we're back on schedule, let's arrange a mod pack vote for the first time in a while. For the record, I will be playing Beyond Depth first, for reasons we will discuss in the Beyond Depth video, so this vote will be for the mod pack after that one. The theme behind these options are things I should have reviewed a while ago. Your options are raspberry flavored, the correct version this time, reminiscence, or rebirth of the night. To the Greg Tech viewers, don't worry, I'm still going to do that second part. Leave a comment to cast your vote, and I will catch you all in the next one. This has been the Bottom Dweller, 10K strong.